Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Growth Infrastructure Waste Committee, number 11 of 2021. And welcome to the first day of summer, a very wet day on the 1st of December. We'll start off with Councillors Attendance, and all councillors are in attendance, and good morning to you all. And there are no apologies. I now move on to declarations of interest on the matter on the agenda. Are there any declarations of interest? Thank you. There are none. We move on to item number 1, which is business outstanding, which is the Georgie Conway Leichhardt Community Swim Centre. And this report considers the operation of the Georgie Conway Leichhardt Community Swim Centre with a particular focus on water heating policy options, attendance trends and forecast cost impacts in changes to current water temperature and settings. I don't know, Councillor Doyle, did you wish to?
I will speak to that first. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so we probably need to speak to it. Is someone going to move it? Okay, thank you, Councillor Ireland. Thank you, Councillor Constable. They'll go into discussion.
Yeah, okay. Mr Alderton, obviously this report is overdue for him, and he's also only had a very short while to consider its response. And out of respect for Mr Alderton, a response came back to him with regards to the contents of the report this morning. I do have 9 copies of all of the extra information here for the benefit of the council, but I'll hand that out as we walk out today, because I think there's too much here to consider, and Mr Alderton deserves a right of reply to some of the information that he's received from the organisation this morning, and we need to consider his responses. So. In the pack that I'll have for everyone here at the council will be all of the supplementary information with regards to Mr Alderton and this particular report. He's outlined some concerns and inconsistencies in the report. He points to omissions in the report, namely the hours of all of the pools, the opening hours of all of the pools within the LGA, and there needs to be a response from Mr Alderton based on the response that he would have received from council just moments ago by paper copy for me, and he's here today. So I would be proposing an alternative recommendation here that we lay this on the table until at least next council ordinary, until we have such time to consider all of the information that we have in front of us, and take more time to deliberate our approach to equity amongst the city when it comes to the operation of our pools. So I thank Mr Alderton for his continued support and communications with the council. Yes, and with respect, I would like to take some more time and hope that my fellow councillors support me in laying this on the table until our January meeting, so we have more time to keep that line of communication open before we lock ourselves into a council resolution that is a pretty firm position on the operation of the Georgie Conway Swim Centre.
Right. I'll just check, Councillor, if you're happy with that motion that the matter be laid on the table until January? That's what yes. As a foreshadowed motion. Well, next full meeting is next week. Yeah. Well, I was actually going to ask the mover and the seconder of the motion if they would, what their views were, if they were happy to know it's an amendment, or we could do it as a procedural. Yeah. Yeah, that's a procedural motion to lay it on the table. Do I have a seconder for that procedural motion? Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Any further discussion on that particular procedural motion? No? I'll put that matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And it's unanimous. So the matter is now laid on the table till January. Thank you very much, Councillor Fickner. Move on to item 2, which is the confirmation of the minutes. And the recommendation is that minutes of the meeting held on the 4th of November 2021 be confirmed. I move that. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Milligan. Any discussion on those minutes? No? I move that this recommendation is approved. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Item 3, officers' reports. There's a petition request for removal of bollards on Sadowski Street in Redbank Plains that did come to us. This is a report concerning a petition received by Councillor Sheila Ireland from the local community requesting the removal of bollards located in Sadowski Street, Redbank Plains, to allow the street to provide a through traffic road function. The recommendations are that the bollards located on Sadowski Street, Redbank Plains, not be removed, and B, that the Chief Petitioner be advised of the outcome of this report. I guess to get the conversations, I'll move those 2 recommendations. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I'll then open it up for questions and discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the fact that when we were advised of the cost of removing it and upgrading the rest of Sadowski Street to the standard required, whereas that money could go towards the intersection of Willow Road and School Road. I guess Redbank Plains is the most populated suburb of Ipswich. It has the highest proportion of children, 0 to 14, so naturally all of our schools at school time, the traffic is just jammed. While I appreciate that the work needs to be done on the corner of Willow Road and School Road, I would ask that Council move on that sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I do note in the report, especially in the conclusions, discussing that on the face of it, it does look like a simple project of just removing bollards, but in looking at it, there is significant planning and design work for this. It's not in our capital works project, and I guess there is a upgrade of School Road that is being planned as well for us to consider in this particular motion as well.
It is a little bit in the future, I think, but now that we have definite figures on the numbers of children, school-age children, I think that we need to move a bit sooner on looking at the traffic congestion around schools.
Right. Yes, sorry, Councillor Madsen.
Due to the timing of any upgrade to School Road, it is a bit hard to bring it forward, but I'd just, bring to the chamber this morning that while Council is undertaking works on Redbank Plains Road Stage 3, there's also the big project of Redbank Plains Road Stage 4, which will follow. School Road is a vital piece of infrastructure that connects Redbank Plains Road all the way down to the Centenary Highway. There's a section of it between Allawoona Street and Redbank Plains Road that is pretty shocking if you head down there at peak traffic hour. It's just absolutely crazy. I think it will be remedied in the upgrade to School Road, but I can't reiterate enough that School Road project is going to be very difficult. There's a lot of service relocations. Redbank Plains is a difficult site because for many years there was a lot of paddocks out there, not a lot of people. Over the last 30 years, it's just grown to be, bigger than most regional towns in Queensland. Redbank Plains is a massive hub of activity and the infrastructure needs to catch up. We're going to get there, but we've got to maintain a commitment to get School Road done sooner rather than later. And may you all be assured of that today, that I'll continue to fight for that road to be upgraded.
Thank you, Councillor Madsen. A timely reminder as we go into budget workshops. I think it's planned for construction in 2024, 2025 if we get budget to do that. Thank you.
For me, it's not a question of if.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? No? I put recommendation A and B to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Item 4 is the Infrastructure and Environment Department Capital Delivery Report for 2021. And this report is a report concerning the performance of the capital delivery by the Infrastructure and Environment Department for the month of October 2021. And the recommendation is that report be received and contents noted. So I'll move that report. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Fittner. Any discussion or questions on this? So, Councillor Fittner, yes. No, I just note the fact the tremendous work that's been going on in our infrastructure and environment area. We've got a very ambitious capital works program to see that the projects are tracking well. I'm sure there may be some slippages with this wet weather. I know the other week we had 9 tractors bogged just for the mowing, let alone capital works. So thank you very much for this report. I think it's excellent and good work on the progress. There's no other discussion. I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. I think it's unanimous and carried. Item 5 is the exercise of delegation report. This is a report concerning the applications that have been determined by a delegated authority for the period of the 19th of October 2021 to 16th of November 2021. The recommendation is that the report be received and contents noted. I move that. Do I have someone who will second that? Thank you, Councillor Fittner. Any discussion on the delegations report? No?
Yes, Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Fittner.
Yep, I do. I probably got a question for Anthony Bowles.
Yes, may I ask for Mr Bowles to come to the lectern? Thank you.
Or Mr Davey. Yeah. We'll work it out.
Good morning, Anthony Bowles, Acting Development Planning Manager.
Thanks, Anthony. For the benefit of the room, I'm on page 79 of the report. And I'm looking at a minor change application submitted by Cleanaway. I just want to, I think it's important to highlight for the benefit of the room an application like this. Obviously, waste is something that is at the front of all of our minds and something that we grapple with all of the time. I'm not bringing this to anyone's attention suggesting that it's controversial, considering that there is development approval to operate a landfill facility on the site. But I'd just like to understand the application a little bit better and why such an application needs to be made to construct a new cell.
Okay.
I think it's worth pointing out that the cell that will be constructed is on the southwestmost side of the site and only 750 metres from our residence at Collingwood Park.
Okay, thank you for that question. I'd just like to confirm we're talking about application 5478 of 2019.
That is correct.
Yep.
MAMC/B.
Okay. I will have to have a closer look into the application details. Truthfully, the operational works component of that application would be under the existing approval. It would be the earthworks, essentially the component to carry out the construction of this landfill cell. So the MCU part, the part where we do the assessment of the appropriateness of that cell, would have occurred in the original approval in the 90s, the original approvals, and the change applications that came since then. So it isn't related to the current appeal applications.
No.
So it's under the current existing operations. So they're getting very close to finalising the existing landfill space that they have available. Some of the cells, if you go through the aerial photography, you'll notice some of the further away from the residential area cells have been filled and the presses being capped. So they would be progressing to the cells, as you say, closer towards the residential areas. There's some of the older concrete crushing cells as well. So
Yeah.
I can't speak specifically what cell that is. All I can say is that it's under the existing development approval.
Yep.
Councillor, would you like some more information sent to us all?
Yeah, happy
Yep,
to
I'm happy to
discuss the
send you some more
particulars of
information. Yep, no worries
of
at all.
the application in greater detail after the meeting. Thank you.
Yep, no worries at all.
Any other questions of Mr Bowles? No, thank you very much, Mr
Good,
Bowles.
thank you.
Any discussion on the delegations report? I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in
so-
favour?
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It might be worth highlighting that because, I mean, coming up later is the Waste and Circular Economy Directive update and any application, whether it be historic or not, that's made by a waste operator do we need to reconsider the delegation of such, such an application? Just throwing that out there for us to consider moving forward, not making any suggestions or a proposed amendment here, but because that is something that's pretty important to us, it might help us on our journey to educating ourselves better as to how these sites operate and the kinds of things that will happen there in the future.
Would you like to ask some questions about what we can do within that now to?
No, I'm just throwing that out there for the
Okay.
benefit of the council to consider moving forward.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous and carried. We move on to item 7, which is a report containing an update on the implementation of the Waste and Circular Economy Transformation Directive. May I ask Mr Davey to come to the lectern to provide an update? Did I miss one? My apologies, I've missed one. Sorry, Mr Davey, I apologise. I've skipped over item 6. Planning and Environment Court Action Status Report. This is a report concerning a status update with respect to current Planning and Environment Court actions associated with development planning applications, and that this report be received and contents noted. Would anyone like to speak to a relevant council officer on this report? No? Mr Bowles is at the ready. And therefore I will move this report. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous and carried. Moving on to item 7, which is the Waste and Circular Economy Transformation Directive Update 5. This is a report concerning an update on the implementation of the Waste and Circular Economy Transformation Directive. May I ask Mr Davey to come to the lectern, please?
Good morning, Brett Davey, Manager City Design.
Thank you, Mr Davey. Would you mind highlighting some of the areas where we've progressed, and I guess and some of the challenges that we have
Of course.
from this report?
Yes, so the program, or a short version of the program, is in the attachment in terms of action from the past month and action for the coming. As a summary, the focus of my work program-wise of late has been on our temporary local planning instrument, which was subject of a previous meeting. We've also done some work on the code of practice and continuing that conversation with the waste industry and the peak body RIQ. There has also been some focus on the joint workshopping and training with the state government. So we've had a series of workshops, I suppose you would say, between the Queensland Government and ourselves to improve relationships and understanding on a number of fronts. So we've had the third of those sessions. The first one was on planning, the second one was on the environmental authority system and the environment. The third one was on the compliance regime, and we're in process of planning a fourth one to bring all of those topics together to consider at an officer level, the gaps, the opportunities and the strengths of the relevant systems. And I think that's a pretty quick summary of what's been going on for you.
Okay. The Waste Recycling Industry Queensland just released a report a couple of days ago, Untangling Queensland's Waste Levy Conundrum. Were there any views that you have on that report? I've read through it, and some interesting observations from the industry there about councils and state government. Do you have any professional views on that?
Yeah, look, I've read both the reports or that report and a few others that are available at the moment. I suppose the key for us from a local government perspective is to try and get clarity on this. The waste levy was introduced with an intended purpose of driving change in the industry. We do need to work out what the future holds with the waste levy and how it can be used and how it can influence both our operations and the operations of the waste industry, because they go hand in hand. Local government can't do it all on our own. And I think that's, but when you look at the various documents that are out there, a piece is required to kind of bring all of that together so that there can be a focus for both the industry and local government on how we can progress with some certainty.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr Davey? No, thank you.
Thank you.
I move that the report be received and contents noted. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Any discussion? No further discussion? Okay, so I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous and carried. There are no notices of motion, no matters arising. So I'll close this meeting now at 9:21 and the next one starts in 10 minutes. Thank you.